everybody is getting set up, I just want to take a minute and first, just thank everybody for coming tonight. Just, your commitment to yourself and your family,
Yes.
for showing up tonight.
Yes.
That's really a big deal. So I am Janai Thornton, and thank you for engaging with us through the Thank Me Later community. And so Thank Me Later, our intent and purpose is really to create a safe space and an opportunity for us as professional women to be able to learn about money, to be able to engage about money and get the guidance that we need. We're all on this financial journey. Most of us are struggling, trying to figure out what to do and when to do it. But that's what our purpose and intent is. And we launched March of last year. Can't believe, that it has been this long already.
Yeah.
And so super excited about that. Grateful this evening to have Tiffany McKenzie with us.
Thank you
Welcome
for
back.
having me. Thanks for having me back.
I know. Welcome back. So Tiffany, I met you through a mutual colleague and ended up working with you getting our wills done, David and myself, and then also one of our clients on our other company side, Envision side. And I was like, I have got to get her on Thank Me Later. Got to get her engaged. And so, Tiffany, I know you've been practicing about 11 years. Yep. You're an estate attorney specifically.
I am.
You're a partner with Harrison Held. And one thing that I love about you, beyond you practicing law, is that you're an entrepreneur too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know you own, let's tell people how many Vibe Rides and Perspire saunas that you own.
I own 3 Vibe Rides in Atlanta. Well, actually 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Detroit.
Okay.
And then we have 4 Perspire Sauna Studios in Atlanta, which is a franchise, and there are about 30 franchise locations throughout the U.S.
Okay. So we're talking about an and, ladies, not an or. Yes. Practicing law and an entrepreneur. It all can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah.
Lots of sleepless nights, but it can be done.
It is all possible. One thing that I wanted to mention is that our first session with you, Tiffany, was back in August of last year. And August, actually, that's the month that our whole focus is on all things estate planning.
Right.
And we did an amazing working session on healthcare directives or power of attorneys and just general power of attorneys. So please go into the Thank Me Later community and you can have access to that information. So you can see that video and also you can actually download the forms.
Yes.
So we put the forms out there for people. So please schedule some time to take advantage of that.
That was a great session.
Oh
Lots of really good questions. We were here for a while, but it was fun.
We were here for a while, but well worth it though.
Yes.
And at least this is one of those things when it's done. It's done. You can
done.
kind of put it to the side.
Right.
You don't have to keep picking this up month after month. So
Right.
that was a really, really good session. So let's talk about why we're here today.
Let's
So
do it.
our session is called Black Wills Matter. Yeah.
Indeed, they do.
Yeah. And I'm excited to be here because a lot of times I think in our community, we think, this is for very wealthy people. We think it's all, for them or people who own businesses or have a lot of other stuff going on. But I think people have no idea that if you have a bank account, you own a house.
If you have children.
You have children.
Yes.
If you have a blended family.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge if you have a blended family.
Yeah.
Yes.
You absolutely want to be able to focus and get your will done. And although we aren't supposed to be talking about this topic until August, our intention in the Thank Me Later community is we wanted to talk about it in January so people could make it a priority.
Yes.
So by the time we get to August,
Right.
they could be all done. So this is not on your to-do list as far as your money goes for 2022.
It needs to be.
It needs to be. It is now.
If it's not on your New Year's resolution list, it is now.
Right. So definitely it's really, really important that we get these done. But of course, we're going to help guide you through that this evening. So just a couple housekeeping items. Of course, please keep yourself muted. Please use the chat. So we're going to take questions at the end. You can ask Tiffany what you need to. And that's one thing that I think I'm really proud about. Thank Me Later. Tiffany is, candidly, majority of us cannot afford you.
Yes.
But
my rate is high. Not going to lie.
She said yes. But that's why I'm grateful for the community because it's our job to make sure
Right.
that people within our community can have an opportunity to
Right.
hear from you,
Right. And ask
to be able
questions.
and to be able to tap into you. If you all do not take advantage of this, you are missing a huge opportunity. So please, please, please take advantage of that. So again, we want to hear from you. And all the slides. We do have some slides. We're only going to share a couple, but all of that's going to be, we'll post that in the community along with this video. So I think I've said enough to get us kicked off. Okay.
Let's start.
Let's start. Let's start. So I wanted to start with some basic terminology because we're going to be saying some words. And I want to make sure people feel comfortable with these words that we're saying, just so baseline, we can all be on the same page.
Right.
So what's your definition of a will?
Sure. So this is one of the times where we're actually going to bring up the slides so that you guys can see and follow along on some of these basic definitions so that at least you get baseline definitions. What is this? As we continue to talk tonight, you know exactly what we're talking about. So when we're talking about estate planning, there are really 4 documents that make up the estate planning package. So if you were to call a lawyer and say, I want to do basic estate planning, more often than not, they're going to discuss these 4 documents with you. And number 1, as Janai said, was a will. So what is it? So a will is a public document, and a will allows you to name beneficiaries of your estate. So what's your estate? Your estate is every asset that you own at the time of your death that is in your name. So if you own a house and it's titled in your name, that makes up a part of your estate. If you have a checking account that's in your name, that makes up part of your estate. If you have a car that's in your name, that makes up part of your estate. So a will is, like I said, a public document that makes sure that you can administer all of those assets that are part of your estate when you die. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term executor. What is that?
Right.
An executor is the person, and you may also hear the term personal representative. Personal representative and executor are the same thing. Different states have different laws. Sometimes they call it a personal representative. Sometimes they call it an executor. But I want you to think those are the same term. That is the person who is court supervised to make sure that they administer your estate according to the terms that you want.
Right. So that's the person in charge if you pass away.
Exactly. The person who's in charge of making sure everything that's written in your will gets done.
The way that you want it to get done.
The way that you want it to get done.
Okay.
And a court is supervising that person.
Okay.
So
it's an important job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Big, big job. Also in your will is the place where you name a guardian. So again, if you have children, you are going to need an estate plan just simply to name a guardian for your children.
Right.
Most states will state that the surviving parent, the other biological parent, has first say-so in being the guardian. Most states say that. So God forbid if the mother passes away, if the father is alive and capable, most states are going to say that the guardian is going to be the father.
Okay.
But there are situations where mother and father die together. Going on family vacation, unfortunately, something happens, mom and dad together.
Right.
Then what happens?
Right.
Then that's when the court is going to follow your will as to who it is that you name as guardian. Or it could be the case where maybe father's not in the picture.
Right.
Or mother's not in the picture. Or maybe father's not alive or mother's not alive. Then that's when your guardian comes into the picture to take care of your child. The other thing that I want to be very clear about when it comes to guardians, the term guardian itself means the person who takes care of the body. So I don't want you to think.
Doesn't mean the money.
Doesn't mean the money.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily mean the person who has the purse strings, who is dialing out or doling out funds. It means the person who is changing diapers,
Right.
who is making sure the kid gets to school,
Right.
the person who is guarding the body.
Okay.
So think about that when it comes to guardian. So you could have a guardian in place who's taking care of the child who is very different than the person who is taking care of the money. So that is a different role. And what's great about estate planning is you can nominate those people and be very clear about who it is that you want to be the guardian and who it is that you want to run the purse strings. So that is a will. What is important to know about a will is that it is a public document. So it is filed with the court in which you reside at the time of your death. So sometimes attorneys or people will say, oh, you need a trust. And that would be one of the reasons why someone would say you might need a trust, is because a will is a public document.
And then that means trust must not be.
Trust is a private document.
Okay.
Exactly. So a trust. A trust is a private document that also allows you to administer your assets. The person who runs the trust is called the trustee. That's the person with the purse strings. So it's very different than a will, where you are just administering your assets on your death, the assets that you own at the time of your death. A trust can be what we call a living trust. You can set it up while you're alive. You can move assets to it while you're alive. You could be trustee while you're alive and run those assets. And it's a private document. It allows you to keep your assets private. It also allows you to give assets to beneficiaries in the future. And that document is run by the trustee.
Right. And when I think about trust, I think about, having children and saying, oh, I don't want my child to get this money all at one time.
Right.
Or I don't want my sister to get this money all at one time. The trust can say, oh, when they turn 25 and 35, correct, or when they get married, or when they graduate from college. So there's a plan.
Correct.
Okay. And all that can be executed
in the trust by the trustee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy. Love that.
The other two important documents that make up a basic estate plan is a healthcare power of attorney. That is where you name someone to be an agent for you to make healthcare decisions should you be unable to make them for yourself. So that could be in the case of incapacity. It could be in the case of you being in the hospital and you can't talk to your doctors, so you need to name a spouse to talk to your doctors. Any healthcare decisions that you can't make for yourself, your healthcare power of attorney can make them for you. The last document is a financial power of attorney. So that is where you are naming an agent to make financial, legal, real estate, all decisions that are not health related.
Okay.
And that's where you can nominate someone to make those decisions for you if you're unable. Okay. So those are the basic 4 documents.
And let's talk about for the person who heard you, haven't gotten their stuff done, and they want to know if they pass away.
Yes.
If they pass away and they don't have that will and they don't have that trust, then what happens?
Then the state that you live in is going to dictate what happens to your assets, which might be okay depending on how your family situation is set up. And it also could be the worst thing in the world, quite honestly.
Right.
It really
yeah, somebody who's not related to you making decisions about your money.
Exactly.
And so that means they could be making a decision about your executor who's in charge.
Yes.
And also who is in charge of your children, who's your guardian.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
That's kind of scary to think about.
That is very scary to think about.
Someone else that's not related to you, and then also possibly empowering the wrong person, not who you wanted to pick.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So why wouldn't you want to nominate those people yourself?
And for people who have no concept of approaching getting these documents done, like where do you start? Is it looking for an attorney? Is it about organizing your documents? Like, where does it begin?
There are a couple steps. I usually tell clients the first great step in putting together all of your assets is kind of just looking at your bank accounts, looking at the assets you own, and putting together what we call a balance sheet. So writing down everything that it is that you own, writing down all of the liabilities that you have on those assets, if any. So just making sure that you've got a list of, I own a house. It has a mortgage on it. I have a car. I have bank accounts. I have 529 plans for my kids. I have XYZ assets. That's the great first starting place, because if you go to see any attorney, that's what they're going to ask you. That's the first question.
Right.
They're going to want to know how much assets you have, what they are, and how they're titled.
And who do you want to give them to?
Correct.
I'm sure. Right.
Correct. So usually first step is go ahead, write it all down. If you just Google personal balance sheet, there are so many different forms that you can pull off the internet to kind of help you think about what to put on that sheet and what is an asset and what someone would actually care to know about. Start there. Then look at that list and think about where would you want those assets to go. Mm-hmm. So we have your car, house, etc. Where would you want those assets to go if something was to happen to you? And kind of just jot it down on the side of that same balance sheet, and you can start thinking about those things. Then the next step would be either you could see an attorney, with those lists, or there are many different resources online. LegalZoom, there's another company called Trust and Will. That's another great company that'll help you pull those things together in the format of a will or a trust. I'm obviously going to recommend an attorney because I am one. Right. Because there are a lot of landmines that you might not even think about when it comes to estate planning and when it comes to transferring different types of assets and retitling different types of assets. So I would recommend, if you know an estate planning attorney in your area, to contact them.
And then on average, if people kind of have this stuff organized, how long is it going to take to get through this process?
Number one thing that you said is if people have their things organized. So if you show up to an attorney's office organized, it usually is the whole process will likely take about a month. It'll be a first initial consultation with an attorney. They'll discuss your assets. They'll discuss kind of what the plan is, what it is that you want to do with those assets. And then the attorney will help formulate the right plan for your will or trust, et cetera. Then the attorney will draft the documents. Usually they will give you drafts of the documents so that you can review them. You can also ask your attorney, can you make sure to summarize these things for me so that not everybody wants to read legal documents and not everyone can read legal documents. So ask your attorney, can you put it together in a summary? Point out the big.
Give me the high points.
Give me the high points.
Or my talking points,
exactly.
too, when I have to have a discussion with people in my family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another great thing you could ask an attorney is to diagram it for you. Draw it.
Right.
So if something happens to me, where are things going?
Okay.
Ask them to do that as well. And then they will edit the documents, and then you will either meet the attorney to sign them or you can sign them on your own. But the whole process usually takes about a month. It could take longer. I will tell you that I have clients that I met 10 years ago that still have not signed their documents.
Why do you think it is? Is it emotional?
It's emotional. It's constant change in the family, not wanting to sit down and actually organize.
Right.
That's another big thing. So there are a lot of different factors, and we can talk about. I call them the 4 fears, quite honestly.
Okay, hold on, because I'm going to talk about these 4 fears.
Yeah.
So before we get into the rest of the process, I want to transition to video.
Yeah.
So this Insecure, I don't know what season this is from, but
it's past season.
Is it season 5? Okay, so season 5 is, so for those of you who are a big Insecure fan, you probably saw this, but just so we could kind of set the tone and the mood of what this can look like as you walk down this path and you're having these discussions with your family.
So let's just get back into it. So we've covered beneficiaries.
Oh, and Kiki sent you an email. She wants all of my linens and my anklets.
Yeah, I got that email. I also ignored it. So why don't we just go back to balance sheet?
Balance sheet? What's the balance? Y'all know you get the house.
We made sure of
We
that.
still gotta discuss the specifics, like how are we splitting the house, and what's in your set, or do you have a raw? And if mom has another stroke, where does her money go?
Ooh, we have not talked about that.
Y'all want some tea? I'm gonna make some tea.
It sound like a lot of questions which lead to the same thing. Just split whatever there's left evenly. I don't care. I'll be dead.
David.
Dad.
Mr. Carter, I know what you mean. But the bank's gonna need an actual dollar amount so they can paint an accurate picture of your financial assets.
So how big is the 401k?
I had to borrow against it to cover your mom's medical expenses. There's not much left.
Wait, what?
What happens if mom has another stroke?
I don't like this conversation.
We're out of tea. I don't know if we ever had any tea, but I'm gonna go to the store.
I promise you, Mr. Carter, nobody likes talking about money. And when you see your whole life on a piece of paper, it's sobering. I can't tell you how many of my clients I've seen open mouth sob because all they have to pass on is an old Nissan Sentra. Manual transmission. But we're professionals, and I've seen every scenario under the sun.
I just don't like seeing how little I have to leave my family. I worked 50 years and it feels like I've got nothing to show for it.
That is not true.
Dad, you gave us love. And that's what's most important. All of this is just things.
And, it's never too late to start saving for your grandkids. We could hook you up with a special savings account today. All we have to do is call the bank, and banks love getting calls. Answering phones, always like, hello?
They do be like that.
How may I help you?
Look, we can just take it one step at a time.
You trying to make a withdrawal?
It's
Look,
so real.
Like funny and not funny at the
Exactly.
same time. So Is this what kind of is standard? Is that kind of how it plays out with a lot of families?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you could see in the clip, they said, as simple as telling us what you have, which is really that first step of just writing it all down, because otherwise your family members will never know.
Right.
I get that phone call so many times. Someone passes away and they say, I don't even know what assets they have.
Right.
And I don't even know how to find out.
How to find them. Yeah.
How do I even know? Do I just sit by the mailbox and wait for bills to come in? I don't even know.
Right.
So step one is just making that list and helping your family out with just knowledge of, I call it the treasure map.
Right.
Just tell me what's there and where it is.
Treasure map or balance sheet, like
Exactly.
like they refer to in the clip. And I think that's so important that people don't understand in the middle of mourning how difficult it is to find life insurance policies. Look for the 401k account or whatever there is.
Right.
And you have no idea even where to start.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's why we have such an impact, I think, culturally of wealth passing.
Yeah.
Because even though you may not have millions of dollars, but if it's $50,000, if it's $100,000,
That's
don't
money.
you? That's money.
That's real
and don't
money.
you want the right people to get it versus it just going God knows where because no one knows where to go.
Exactly.
Right. That's huge. So the balance sheet, again, that list, it sounds like a really important place to start.
Exactly.
Isn't it interesting how the father was having emotional reaction to not being where he thought he would be financially?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people have to go through that part too.
Right. It's just understanding, one, your mortality.
Right.
And two, that maybe you don't have what it is that you want to have to pass on to your children. But if you have something, that is still something. And wouldn't it be better to make sure it gets to them in the right way and in the right manner than not at all?
Right.
So it's hard, obviously, and these are very tough conversations, but it's better to have something rather than nothing.
Right. And so, Tiffany, what about the person watching this who needs to have that conversation with their parents or their grandparents? Because I know a lot of times we need to get our stuff together.
Yes, absolutely.
But I know a lot of people who are stressed because their parents or grandparents
don't have it together.
They don't
either.
have it together.
Yeah.
How do you bring this up? How do you have that family meeting that we just saw?
It's funny. I tell so many clients right before the holidays, and we just passed the holidays, this is the perfect time. When you're sitting together at Christmas time.
Tiffany.
Yes. Okay. Or at the table at Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Just to bring it up. So you know what, mom, dad, grandparents, I just want to make this as seamless as possible. How can I help? Can I help you put the list together? Are there certain things that you already know that you want to go to a certain person?
Right.
Can I introduce you to an attorney? I kind of just, if you just do it yourself and say, hey, parent, I just went through this myself and this is what I had to do.
Right.
I'm willing to help. Because at the end of the day, it's only going to help you. Quite honestly, you're doing it selfishly.
Absolutely.
So just giving them the baby steps and kind of helping parents and grandparents and loved ones throughout this process and telling them everything you learned tonight, everything that you learn through these sessions as well is going to be invaluable, not only to your parents and loved ones, but for you, because you are going to have to deal with this at one point.
Right. And as being a person who's been the executor, I think 3 or 4 times now, when my mother passed away, I did not have to make one decision.
Yeah.
I didn't have to look for anything. And it allows you the opportunity to just grieve.
Right.
I can't imagine having to grieve and have that responsibility and I can't find anything.
Exactly.
And I think if we can approach our parents and our family that way.
Play on the emotions.
Just sounds like a little manipulation, but do whatever you have to do. But I also think people don't realize how this can break a family apart.
Oh, my goodness.
When these decisions aren't made in advance. Because of the chaos.
Yes.
Instead of just saying, hey, mom made this decision, dad, how can you be mad about that?
Right.
It is what it is versus all this infighting and craziness that could potentially happen.
Absolutely. It's one of the number one reasons to get your estate planning done is to keep family harmony.
Right.
I cannot tell you how many times I have seen families ripped apart. I've seen family members sue each other over the littlest of things.
Right.
The littlest of things. So helping your family members and putting these documents in place, putting exactly how you want things to flow, where you want them to flow, who you want to be in charge of it is only going to save family harmony in the long run.
Okay. So one more question about the clip. You know, the father says, I just want to split everything evenly. Is that a good idea? It doesn't matter that if that's just what your wishes are. What are your thoughts on that?
That really depends on what everything is. What are the assets? Can you just split them evenly? So let's say, again, something that I see happen a lot is parents will say, I have a house, just split it evenly.
Right.
How is that happening?
Right.
With
Right.
If you've got 3 children, they all have families. Are they all living in the house together? No, that's not happening. So maybe that's not the best decision. Maybe it is give direction to sell it and split it evenly.
Okay.
Or give direction for someone to live in and maybe they pay rent to the other people that are not living in it. So thinking about what the asset is and can it actually just be split evenly, or are there better ways to make sure that everyone can benefit from that asset?
Okay. One thing else that I just thought about was in families, how you may have the intent or the desire to split things evenly, but we know certain family members may not be responsible.
Correct.
Maybe someone has more needs.
Correct.
Maybe there's a child with a disability. How do families address that? And you still, to some degree, you want to be fair, but you're just addressing, you're just being realistic about skill sets, lifestyles, all of that.
I tell clients often that you should plan your estate planning as you would your life. So you don't treat your children equally while you're living, because people have different needs. So you shouldn't treat them equally on your death either, because they have different needs. So there are ways that we can plan around that. Maybe someone specifically needs a certain asset. Maybe someone else needs to finish college, and your other kids have already done that. So you're going to put some more funds towards getting another kid through college, things like that. So it doesn't mean that you don't love your kids equally. And what we can do is we call it almost like love language in your documents to tell your kids why
you made the decision.
Why you made the decision for it not to be equal, or why someone is getting a certain asset over the other one. So we can put those things in your documents.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Though. Right. And hopefully that will help with the transition.
Exactly.
Okay. I love that.